is day 4 of our holiday. We spent the night at the Kgalagadi guest house and sheep farm, a really authentic sheep farm, about 200 kilometers south of the Kgalagadi National Park. It's run by a lovely couple here who gave us the most amazing dinner last night. When we arrived yesterday afternoon, we did a short drive down one of the farm tracks in the heat of the day, unfortunately, but still picked up Sabota's lark, Morocco's sunbird, which was actually a lifer for me, and double-banded courser. On the farm across the road is a farm dam, which is the only water source in the area. So the habitat around that is slightly different to the surrounding area and acts as quite a nice bird trap. Unfortunately, there's no water in the dam, but it's still nice and green on the other side there. So what we're going to do this morning is just have a bite to eat, re-drive that same farm track, see if we can pick up some more things, because it'll be more active early morning, and then go across and walk around the kind of vegetative area on the other side around the dam, see what we can find. There's Fergie's behind us there, Dad doing his thing. Yeah, it's just across the road, dam which is now dry unfortunately, but we're just going to go and see what we can pick up. It's normally more active in the morning, obviously, before the sun gets up and everything starts hiding in the shade, etc. So see what we can find. A gabar goshawk right at the gate was a good start. Note the white-tipped secondary feathers, an excellent identification feature of this bird. This is where the dam should be. It's kind of dry at the minute. Over and above the farm dam, this area houses the Kalahari bush camp and camping accommodation. The bush camps offer guests thatch roof huts with thorn tree style enclosed bomas and contains warm water showers, toilets, and is fully equipped for self-catering breaks, while the campsites have communal cooking and washing up areas along with male and female ablution blocks. There were several redback shrike holding territory here. These birds breed across most of Europe and into central Russia, but spend the northern hemisphere winters in tropical and southern Africa. They have the habit of impaling their prey items on thorns to be consumed at a later date, earning them the name of butcher birds. Not great views of it, but this canary was the first of 2 lifers in this area. Green-winged patelia are vividly colored waxbill, with a red bill, rump and tail and an olive-green back and wings. The male's forehead and throat are orange-red and has a bright breastband. The female, such as the bird we have here, lacks the breastband and has a grey head. It's widespread throughout sub-Saharan Africa, although it's rarely seen in central, southern and coastal western parts of the continent. Teminix coursers were my second life of the day, with 4 birds gracing the open areas surrounding the campsites. The only courser in the area with an all-black wing, black belly patch and all-rufous crown. Found in very open areas such as short grassland, semi-desert, overgrazed and recently burnt areas. Usually seen in pairs or family groups. Like all coursers, they duck their head and run across the ground at great speed. Just coming back from birding across the road. Two possible lifers, black-throated canary and Temenix courser. Over and above that, the birding across there is absolutely bonkers. Awesome spot. You can actually camp across there, so in the mornings you can roll out of your tent and just start birding straight away. We're just heading back to the guest house now for some brekkie. And we're going to jump in the car, do that road again, and then head up north to the Kgalagadi National Park. Unfortunately, driving the gravel road again didn't produce much more from what we had the day before, but we did add a lovely Ludwig's bustard, which we caught flying between feeding spots, and on our return found a sociable weaver's nest embedded in one of the farm's windmills, which we hadn't seen the day before. After leaving the Kalahari guest house, we started driving the 200 kilometers north towards the entrance to the Kgalagadi Transfontier park, stopping at Uskam, the last little town before the park, to top up our tanks and to buy a few cold drinks and snacks for the drive, and then we were on our way again, hitting the open road. Just before the entrance to the park, I had to turn around and drive back for this African grey hornbill, my third lifer of the day. It's a widespread resident breeder in much of sub-Saharan Africa and the southwest of the Arabian Peninsula. It's a large bird, although one of the smaller hornbills. It prefers open woodland and savanna. The female lays 2 to 4 white eggs in a tree hollow, which is blocked off during incubation with a cement made of mud, droppings and fruit pulp. There is only a narrow opening just large enough for the male to transfer food to the female and chicks. When the chicks and female outgrow the nest, the mother breaks out and rebuilds the wall, after which both parents feed the chicks. The African grey hornbill is omnivorous, eating insects, fruit and reptiles, which they mainly find in trees. And then finally arriving here at one of my favourite places on the planet, the Kgalagadi Transfontier Park. It's an amazing place that I've visited several times before, but unfortunately hadn't been for many years, so a visit was long overdue. The park is truly massive, covering some 38,000 square kilometers, making it one of the largest national parks in the world. And to give you an idea of scale, I've superimposed the park over London and the south of England, showing you just how large the park is. Created in May of 2000, when South Africa's Kalahari Gemsbok National Park and Botswana's Gemsbok National Park amalgamated, the Transfontier Park was the first of its kind in Africa. Although the park covers 2 countries, I've only ever visited the South African section, with its 2 dry riverbeds, the Nassop and the Arb. The South African side also houses the 3 main rest camps, Tweerefuren, Nassop and Mata Mata, each of which we'll be visiting in this video. Tweerefuren is the park's administrative centre and biggest rest camp, and this is where our Kgalagadi adventure will start. Although the park specialises in big cat sightings, it boasts an amazing bird list of over 270 species, and this is what I'll be concentrating on in this video. This map at check-in shows where we were currently and how truly massive the park really is. We were going to spend our first night in the park at Tweerefuren, but having arrived early, our chalet for the night wasn't ready yet, so we decided to have some lunch at a picnic spot close to the gates, and then do a drive along the Nassop riverbed for the day. The roads are quite corrugated, so we're going to let our tyres down now to 1.5 bar. This will smooth out all the rippling on the dirt roads. We've got a compressor in the car to repump them up when we leave.
Karen's always a little bit apprehensive about opening these gates at Tweerefieren. One time she opened the gates for me, and after driving through and her walking back to the car, we discovered a pride of lions just under those trees ahead of us. So now every time she opens the gate, she's expecting a pride of lions just on the other side. Our late morning drive would take us the 46 kilometers to the Melkvlei picnic stop, which is just north of where the Southern Transect Road meets the Nassau riverbed, and then back again to check into our accommodation. The genus Truthionidae, or ostrich, is made up of two species, the common and the newly split Somali ostrich. This gives you a good idea of what the riverbeds look like, this one being the Nassau River, which covers a distance of around 740 kilometers and ends 50 kilometers south of the Tweerefieren camp. The Nassau is said to flow once a century, however the water is stored underground to provide life for grasses and camelthorn trees growing in the riverbed. The Nassau may flow briefly after large thunderstorms, causing wildlife to flock to the river. It last flooded in 1989. The river has its origins in two main tributaries, the Black and White Nassops, which start in the Ochohovera Mountains to the east of Windhoek and end in the Malopo River, which is a tributary of the mighty Orange River. This is perhaps one of the most photographed trees in the park, with its accompanying sociable weaver's nest. This species of bird builds large compound community nests, a rarity among birds, and are perhaps the most spectacular structure built by any bird. They are found across southern Africa, in South Africa, Namibia and Botswana, but its range is centered in the Northern Cape. Breeding in the Northern Cape is usually between December and August, but when rainfall is particularly low, the entire year's breeding can be skipped. The nests look like large haystacks and are among the largest built by any bird, and are large enough to house over 100 pairs of birds. They form habitats for an array of other birds, insects and reptiles. Cape cobras and boomslangs are the most common nest predators, along with pygmy falcons, that can famously breed right within the colony itself. Sometimes you can even pick out the exact entrance holes, as these are the holes that are often covered in stark white feces. The park is inhabited by some of the hardiest desert specialists, like the springbok, the national animal of South Africa. Springbok rarely rely on water, gaining most of their moisture from the flowers, seeds, and leaves they eat. Both sexes have horns which they never shed. They get their name from the pronking displays they do to show fitness and strength to any would-be predators. I've visited the park several times before, but never in the rainy season, which runs from November to March, so it was amazing to see massive storm clouds roll in and drench the desert in water. Afternoon thunderstorms with short, sharp showers are the norm during this time, but afternoon temperatures stay at around 30 degrees Celsius. However, the evenings can get cooler. The Kalahari responds very quickly to rain, even after long periods of drought. Within a few days, certain grasses and shrubs will be blooming and showing tips of new growth. And then after a short while, it really started to come down, quickly creating roadside bodies of water and filling every depression in the road. But animals seem to love the respite in the heat, and some like this leopard tortoise now don't have to travel far to get a drink, using the puddles in the road to quench their thirst. Leopard tortoise range over eastern and southern Africa and are the fourth largest species of tortoise in the world, with some adults reaching 60 to 70 centimeters in length and weighing in at around 40 kilograms. They eat a variety of plants including thistles, grasses and succulents, and reach sexual maturity at about 13 years of age and often live for more than 100 years. White-browed sparrow weavers are found in greatest numbers in southern Africa, but can be found as far north as Ethiopia. Sparrow weavers are omnivores that eat insects, especially locusts, termites, and beetles, along with seeds and grains. These birds breed all year round, but prefer the warmer months. Although each pair in the group builds a nest, only one pair in that group breeds. The dominant female lays between 1 and 3 eggs that only she incubates. The newly hatched chicks are fed by the mother for the first few days, and then all birds in the group pitch in to help. Interestingly, ground squirrel's skin is completely black, with a coat of short stuff hairs, and is widespread in southern Africa. They live in groups in burrows underground, made up of a few adult females and a small group of sub-adults of both sexes. The adult males live separately and only join the females when they are in estrus. They spend most of their time during the day foraging and don't need to drink because they get most of their moisture from the food they eat. They forage daily and don't hoard food items and can often be found shading themselves with their own tails. Back at Tweerefieren and checked into our accommodation for the evening. Tweerefieren is the park's largest camp and only camp with mobile phone reception and 24 hours of electricity. It houses the main entrance to the park, a campsite, chalets, a shop, petrol station, restaurant, swimming pool, game viewing hide, and information center.
I don't know if it is.
Oh, you can smell the chicken.
It ain't for you, nee?
Ja, dit is.
Weet immer of jy dit gesê dit vir jou.
Whenever you are preparing food or eating in the Kalahari, you are always being watched, but of course feeding animals in all of South Africa's game parks is prohibited. One of the best things about the desert camps are the swimming pools. There's nothing better than a dip after a long dusty day. The Tweerefieren camp has a fairly large footprint which allows you to do some great birding around the camp. Make sure you check every tree because each one could be holding a surprise. Several owl species make use of the camp's trees to roost in during the day. For instance, we had a Varro's eagle owl in a dead tree right by our chalet. I'm a little biased, but some of the best sunsets you'll ever see in your life will be in the Kalahari. This is due to large amounts of airborne sand particles and the endless open African sky. The Tweerefieren Interpretive Center was opened in July of 2023 and is a testament to the enduring legacy of the ancient Kamani Sand tribe, one of the oldest tribes in the world, preserving their wisdom, customs, and folklore for future generations. Visitors to the Kgalagadi Transfontier Park are encouraged to explore the center and celebrate the rich cultural heritage of the Kalahari. The center also highlights the history of the park with a series of interesting displays. And of course, when the darkness arrives, so do the creepy crawlies. We were gifted the most amazing lightning display that I've seen for some time on our first night at Tuerefiren, but weirdly we had lightning but no thunder, which was a little disappointing. Although up at Mata Mata a bit later on, we had a thunderstorm that literally rattled the dishes in the sink, much to my delight. I love a good thunderstorm.
Up nice and early this morning, got up at 5, showered, had some coffee, packed the vehicles, and now we're just checking out and signing out of Tuerefiren, and we're going to head up the Nosop Valley to the Nosop camp for tonight, just one night. It's going to be a long day. We've got all day. We'll probably have breakfast and lunch en route, but it's sun's already peaking its head up, so gates open at 6:30, so hopefully we'll be one of the first in the queue to get out and see what the park has to offer. Only took about 2,000 photographs yesterday, so hopefully I'll double that today.
Today we'd see us making the 160-kilometer run north up to the Nosop camp. The roads are decent gravel roads, but of course there's a speed limit and you keep stopping to view wildlife, so the trip is likely to take you most of the day. Yesterday's rain was still lying in huge pools along the road, a novelty for me still in the Kalahari. By far the most common owl for us this trip were these spotted eagle owls. Every tree seemed to have one. A medium-sized owl, but one of the smallest eagle owls. They have a wide distribution across most of sub-Saharan Africa and are the owl you are most likely to encounter in urban environments. Usually nesting on the ground, but will take to man-made structures just as easily. We came across this beautiful pale chanting goshawk in the early morning light, but it wasn't appreciating the fact it could see itself reflected in the water. Pale chanting goshawk occur across most of arid southern Africa. It's larger and paler than the barred-rumped dark chanting goshawk. They predominantly hunt from elevated perches such as trees and telephone poles, but also walk along the ground in pursuit of prey. PCGs commonly associate with foraging honey badgers and feed on organisms the badgers flush by their feeding activity. I actually captured this technique later on in this video. Normally a female mates with a single male, but in some instances a female and two males may form a trio, where the alpha male and female will be assisted in raising the young by a beta male. Another of my many lifers this trip was this black-faced waxbill, a common species occurring across southern Africa. A lovely waxbill with a bold black face mask, found mainly in dry thorn scrub and woodland, especially in grassy areas, usually in pairs like these were, or in flocks of up to 30 individuals. Pygmy falcons is a diminutive raptor native to eastern and southern Africa. It's the sole species in its monotypic genus Polyhyrax. The pygmy falcons, weighing in at around 70 grams, are the smallest bird of prey on the African continent and among the smallest raptors on Earth. Only some of the Asian falconets are smaller. Pygmy falcons prey on reptiles and insects, but will occasionally prey on small birds and appropriately sized small mammals. Going from Africa's smallest raptor to its largest, this was one of our most exciting finds in the park. We found this martial eagle that had carried an entire buck up into a tree to feed on it, showing just how powerful these birds are. They're native to sub-Saharan Africa and the only species in its genus, Polymeteus. Africa's largest eagle, with a wingspan of 2.6 meters and weighing in at around 4 kilograms. They hunt primarily by soaring high and then swooping down on their prey, consisting of other birds, mammals, and reptiles. Pairs have incredibly large territories, averaging about 150 square kilometers. Martials are slow to mature, reaching adult plumage after about 7 years, and this is when breeding starts too. They lay one egg every 2 years. Their slow breeding rate has unfortunately contributed to their decline. Juveniles are dependent on their parents for food for as long as 8 months. Slender mongoose are primarily diurnal and live in pairs or alone, and sometimes share dens with related species, as most of their relatives are nocturnal. Male's ranges may include the ranges of several females, and scent clues inform him when they are in heat. Pregnancies result in 1 to 3 young, which are looked after by the female alone. Mongoose are carnivores, eating mostly insects, but lizards, rodents, birds, and amphibians will also do. They're also partial to snakes, sometimes even venomous ones, which they expertly dispatch with lightning-fast reflexes. Slender mongoose are more adept at climbing trees than other mongoose, often hunting birds there. An interesting fact about ostriches is that they love shiny objects. So should you ever visit an ostrich farm in South Africa, always remember to remove your earrings and necklaces before going in. Ostriches eat stones to aid in their digestion, but one particular individual in a London zoo, post-mortem, was found to have coins, a lead pencil, keys, a bicycle valve, several small washers, a metal comb, and a 4-inch nail inside of it. Tawny eagles are a large bird of prey in the booted eagle subfamily and have an extensive but not continuous range across most of Africa and the Indian subcontinent. When tawnies perch, they like to sit upright, and over and above being expert hunters, they like to scavenge as well, and can often be found on village dumps and eating roadside carrion. The pair mate for life, breeding in the Kalahari is between April and January. The Transfontier eagles build new nests every year, and only about 2% of the nests are reused the following year. Siblings can be aggressive towards each other, sometimes resulting in the death of the younger hatchling, generally in the first couple of days. The average lifespan of these eagles are about 16 years. About 12 kilometers north of where the Southern Transect Road meets the Nassau riverbed, you'll find the Melkvlei picnic spot, which is one of only 4 places in the park you can get out of your car and walk around. You can stop here, have a bite to eat and use the ablutions, but bear in mind the area is unfenced and open to the wildlife.
We are just at a pit stop. We're allowed to get out your car on the road to Nassau. Everybody's just using the ablutions here. It's one of the few places where you can actually get out and walk around. Lovely day so far. Marshall eagle, tawny eagle, Lanner falcon, pygmy falcon, loads of sandgrouse, Tamarinda courser, list goes on and on and on. It's an amazing place.
The Kgalagadi Transfontier Park boasts an incredible bird list, but only about a third of them are resident in the park. It's also renowned for its birds of prey, with 50 odd species recorded in the park, which represents about 2/3 of South Africa's total. Bird watching in the Kgalagadi is always good, but especially so from November to April, when you can observe migratory birds as well as the resident ones. Life in the Kalahari Desert revolves around water, so it goes without saying most of the action is centered around the various waterholes dotted along the route between the camps, especially during the dry season. Everything in the desert needs a drink, and the predators know this and so concentrate on these waterholes. If you have the luxury of time, I recommend spending the morning parked up by one of them, where you can witness the never-ending struggle of life and death in the desert. After a long hot drive north, we finally arrived at the Nassau camp gates and parked up to check in for our one-night stay. The Nassau camp is my favorite camp of the park and provides a range of cottages and campsites to rent. Due to its small size and popularity, the camp normally gets booked out a whole year in advance, so bear this in mind if you're thinking of visiting. The camp has a reception, swimming pool, predator information center, small shop, fuel station and game view in Hyde. A generator provides electricity for 16.5 hours a day, and there's no phone service here, which I think adds to the tranquility and peaceful atmosphere of this camp. The fenced-off area of the camp is very generous, which allows for great birding on foot, a luxury in the park. As a touriferan camp, check every tree for owls, as most of the owl species in the park make use of the camps to roost in during the day. Within minutes of arriving, we had this African scops owl in a small tree right by the reception area, pointed out to us by some visitors to the camp. Another excellent lifer for me. I was blown away by just how small and camouflaged these birds are. Measuring just 16 centimeters in length and endemic to sub-Saharan Africa, African scops are not as territorial as their Eurasian cousins and will sometimes nest relatively close to each other. The female lays between 4 and 6 eggs in a tree hollow, and breeding occurs from April to June. She incubates the eggs alone and is fed by the male while doing so. After the eggs hatch, she feeds the young with food brought to her by the male. After about 18 days, both adults feed the young. The prey of the African scops owl is mainly insects such as grasshoppers, beetles, crickets, and moths, but spiders, scorpions, and small vertebrates are also taken.
So this is our accommodation for tonight in Nosop camp. We've just arrived and unpacked and we're just chilling out, having a bit of a cool drink and a cold shower. And so far we've had southern white-faced scops owl in this tree, and across here we've got a pair of spotted eagle owl in this tree, quite low down, and a African scops owl in the bottom of that tree as well, that little tree there. So we had all three owls in about 5 minutes of arriving, because they'd all been found previously and reported, so it was easy pickings for us just to come in and tick them all off. The African scops owl was a lifer for me, so happy days. And that's all 2 minutes walk from the accommodation.
Crimson-breasted shrike is a southern African bird, and both sexes have the same coloration and are indistinguishable from each other. Amazingly, there's a yellow-breasted variant as well, which was first thought to be a separate species. They have an amazing call which is often heard before the bird is seen. After spending a little bit of time in the camp, we decided to check out the area north of the camp. That's one of the nice things about Nosop, is that you can drive either north or south, whereas at Mata Mata, because of the border post, you only have the option of driving back south from the camp. Our route would take us the 23 kilometers north to the Kwang waterhole and back, then finishing the day at the famous Kwabaki Kwap waterhole close to the camp. Whiteback vultures are the most common vulture species on the African continent and has a truly massive range across most of sub-Saharan Africa. But like many African vultures, it has suffered a recent rapid decline. In 1988, it was classified as least concern, but unfortunately in just 35 years it's gone on the critically endangered list. Whiteback vultures feed in groups and are often one of the first vulture species to arrive at a carcass. This leads to this species having a high dominance at the carcass in comparison to other vulture species such as white-headed, hooded, and Egyptian vultures. After feeding, whiteback vultures often rest with their wings spread and their backs facing the sun, as they have gorged themselves so much they can no longer fly. As we rounded a bend in the road, I was caught completely off guard as a pair of honey badger ran across the road right in front of us. This was the best I could do, firing off a few shots through the windscreen of the car before they both disappeared into the long grass. On our return, we stopped at the famous Kgalagadi waterhole. It's a waterhole that allows for close viewing of game. While jackals are opportunistic predators known for scavenging, the blackback jackals of the Kalahari have famously become expert bird hunters, as birds come down to drink at the waterholes, and this watering hole is one of the best places in the park to see and photograph this behavior. Thousands of doves and sandgrouse descend on the waterhole at dawn and dusk, attracting various predators by their sheer numbers. The jackals keep well clear of the water and bide their time while the birds' confidence and numbers grow. Once a few birds start flying down from the nearby trees, the whole flock soon follows, and this is when the jackals strike, relying on large numbers to cause confusion and chaos once they pounce, and are surprisingly efficient at it. After making it back in time before the camp gates closed at 6 o'clock, we still had plenty of light to explore the camp and visit the amazing game viewing hide. Besides the pool, it's the most visited place in the camp. From this hide, you can view a flood-lit waterhole that lies approximately 100 meters from the camp. At night, this waterhole is lit until 10 o'clock. Predators like cheetahs, lions, and spotted hyenas are often seen here. I've also had hunting barn owls and various species of bat and nightjar that are drawn in by insects attracted by the floodlights. An hour or two sitting here being serenaded by barking geckos is never wasted. And then a quick braai before exploring the area immediately around the chalet to try and find some nocturnal insects and scorpions. But a word of warning, always wear closed shoes when attempting this at night, as the Kalahari has a high population of scorpions, which are now more active.